Reconceptualizing the Deep State, a legal and structural analysis of public-private power convergence. What if the greatest threat to freedom wasn't elected at all? Discover how unelected forces manipulate global policy through hidden alliances between private tech empires, intelligence networks, and corporate cartels, under the mask of democracy. 1. The semantic evolution of the term deep state. Once dismissed as a conspiratorial abstraction, the term deep state has matured into a useful descriptor capturing the permanent, unelected bureaucratic power structures operating across governmental and private domains. Both progressive and conservative constituencies now increasingly recognize its influence, suggesting a bipartisan experiential validation. Footnote: this section traces the changing legitimacy of the term deep state and its acceptance across the political spectrum. 2. Institutional interweaving, intelligence agencies and tech conglomerates. From Microsoft and Google to social media giants, the infrastructural development of contemporary digital platforms was not merely market-driven, but benefited from capital and strategic input from intelligence networks, primarily the CIA and associated entities. These alliances blur accountability and institutional boundaries, creating opaque zones of policy execution. Footnote: this section examines the fusion of state intelligence and private technology sectors, resulting in an indistinct governance architecture. 3. Plausible deniability and legal insulation through privatization. The strategic delegation of governmental functions to private contractors, NGOs, and tech firms creates legal insulation. Such outsourcing allows for actions, such as censorship or covert influence campaigns, that would be impermissible under direct state authority, exploiting the shield of non-governmental status to evade judicial scrutiny. Footnote: this section discusses how privatization is utilized to execute state objectives without constitutional oversight. 4. Policy capture through economic and institutional cartels. The deep state more accurately resembles a cartel, a collaborative syndicate of state agencies and private capital actors aligned by mutual incentive structures. Its continuity is ensured not by central conspiracy, but through overlapping economic interests and policy capture. These include finance, defense contracting, and crisis management industries. Footnote: this section reframes the deep state as a cartel of intersecting public-private entities functioning through mutual incentive alignment. 5. The bipartisan betrayal and cultural polarization as strategy. Despite appearing politically divided, both major American parties have historically appointed Treasury and intelligence officials from the same Wall Street institutions, thus maintaining structural continuity. Cultural wedge issues such as race and gender serve primarily to distract and divide the populace, weakening collective resistance to economic centralization and elite control. Footnote: this section argues that cultural polarization is leveraged to obscure economic collusion among elite institutions. 6. Globalization, technocracy, and the erosion of national sovereignty. Nation-states are increasingly subordinated to transnational elites whose allegiances lie with global supply chains and multinational governance bodies. Technocracy as a model is ascendant, favoring rule by credentialed experts and AI systems, bypassing democratic accountability. Nationalism, then, is not regressive but a bulwark against global technocratic hegemony. Footnote: this section explores how globalization and technocracy diminish democratic national governance. 7. The manufactured consent of the masses. Advanced marketing and behavioral psychology, once confined to consumer manipulation, have now been repurposed for political and social engineering. From covert instigation in foreign protests to controlled opposition in domestic demonstrations, the state now weaponizes consent through algorithmic nudging and social media echo chambers. Footnote: this section outlines the rise of behavioral influence and mass manipulation as tools of statecraft. 8. Nationalism versus global homogeneity, a structural argument. Nationalism, appropriately defined, is the preservation of localized identity, governance, and cultural continuity. In contrast, globalist movements encourage homogenization, diluting self-determination under the guise of multiculturalism. This homogenization aligns with elite interests in creating universally pliant populations. Footnote: this section defends nationalism as a defense mechanism against cultural and economic erasure. 9. Incentive structures, not conspiracies, drive systemic oppression. Contrary to popular narratives of shadowy cabals, systemic tyranny is frequently the byproduct of converging incentives among powerful actors. These actors benefit financially and politically from public dependency, societal fragmentation, and controlled crises, making centralized coordination unnecessary. Footnote: this section posits that emergent behaviors of elite alignment create structural oppression absent formal conspiracy. 10. Legal manipulation via public-private censorship collusion. The state's constitutional limitations can be circumvented through partnerships with private firms, particularly in censorship. Social media companies have acted as proxies to enforce state-preferred narratives, skirting First Amendment protections through indirect coercion and information laundering. Footnote: this section explains how legal frameworks are undermined through delegated censorship operations. 11. Toward a decentralized nationalist ideal, power back to the individual. The antidote to global cartel control is neither nationalism as statism nor libertarian atomization, but a subsidiarity model, empowering individuals and their immediate communities. Prioritizing local governance over distant federal or supranational rule ensures accountability and maintains cultural integrity. Footnote: this section proposes a nationalist model rooted in subsidiarity and localized empowerment. 12. The ethical crisis of influence and consent. The true moral dilemma lies not in the existence of influence, but in its concealment. When states and corporations covertly manipulate perception and behavior without informed consent, they violate the foundational principles of autonomy and deliberative democracy. Footnote: this section underscores the ethical breach posed by hidden influence over public consciousness. Conclusion: defining the deep state by its operational modality. The deep state should no longer be seen solely as a clandestine cabal within government, but as a pervasive operational mode, one defined by public-private convergence, incentive alignment, and behavioral control mechanisms. Recognizing its structural components enables legal scholars, citizens, and policymakers to devise countermeasures that reassert democratic norms and restore civil liberty. Footnote: this final section redefines the deep state as a structural mode of governance requiring legal and civic resistance.